This is a very big topic. This past week at Ananda Village, there was the Inner Renewal Retreat, which is a program that has been happening for perhaps a decade, I'm not quite sure. Swami Kriyananda started, spacing the name of it, in the summer. Spiritual Renewal Week, yeah. He started that, and that's been going on ever since Ananda Village was created. But it's been more recently that Inner Renewal Retreat was started. And the thought was, well, that would be the time of year when there would be tons of snow on the ground, and it would attract, it was more for the families that live there, the 300 people, I guess it was, that lived there, and they just come slodging through the snow, and it would be a small group. Well, that's changed. Of course, a lot of things have changed. The weather has changed. And Inner Renewal Week retreat this week had 3,000 people online. Amazing. This was a small idea. This was cuddled in the snow idea. And now there's 3,000 people online. And of course, the whole village was there, and visitors from all over the world were there. And Devi Novak, who's one of the spiritual directors, said that half of those people were brand new to Ananda. That's quite something. So that presented quite a challenge, because you're not going to stand there and talk down. I mean, you're not going to simplify the teachings. You're going to go as deep as you can. So she apologized to those many, many hundreds that were there for the first time, and she said, you know, you can follow up on all of this and get yourself in that vibration. So it was a stunning week, and on top of which, this is the second year that week has been totally free. So all of you can go home and watch the recordings from Monday through Thursday. I highly recommend it. It's just excellent. So here we are with our big topic today. Can man see God? Well, what is the seeing that we're talking about here? We can certainly, and all of us have, seen evidence of God. But it's interesting, isn't it? Until you, in your own private search, recognize that God is the biggest part of your life, the evidence that we see is not clear to others. You spend time in nature, it's evident that God is present, that there is intelligence and love behind the creation of this world. And we also see evidence in a lot of experiences that people have. There's the story of a fellow at Ananda Village who was taking a usual run into town in his truck. And if those of you who know Ananda Village, the road that goes back into town is very steep and very windy and has steep embankments. He suddenly realized his brakes totally failed, and the truck started going faster and faster. And he just prayed to God and Divine Mother and took the truck over the embankment, and it caught on a manzanita plant. He opened the door, got out, and proceeded to find help. Now to us, that's evidence of God, certainly. There was a story from several years ago, a resident of the village. She was one of the school teachers. And she had come from a family of 10 children with a very spiritually deep mother. And her mother was perfectly okay with Irene finding Ananda. It included Christ and many more. So Mother used to come to visit the village. She was very drawn to Yogananda as well as her Catholic background. And one time when she visited, she was walking along and Yogananda appeared to her, walking right beside her. She knew who he was, and they talked. Wouldn't we all just love to have that experience? She got home, she could not speak. She got home, and her daughter thought she had had a stroke. She couldn't speak, she couldn't say anything. She was probably in bliss. And they were going to take her to the hospital. But they didn't, she said. And finally, when she came back with her feet on the ground, she told the story. Well, I don't know how someone who didn't believe in other worlds and the vastness of this life that we live would be able to understand that story at all. But there it is. That's what happened. That's what happened. So Narayan told a very interesting story. I'm going to bring it back to a kind of a story that we could certainly experience. He is Narayan and Dharma Devi are the folks who are handling Crystal Clary Publishers. And they do their work from the village now. And they're still in charge of a lot of shipping. So Narayan had a day when he was headed for the post office in North San Juan. And he had a couple of packages that were handleable, but then he had 3 cartons of Autobiography of a Yogi. And we know how heavy that is. And there weren't any people around. But he went in and mailed his first packages, and then he came out, and there was a gentleman there and said, "Are you from Ananda?" And Narayan said, "Yes, why did you ask that question?" He said, "I saw your license plate. The license plate says Kriya." Well, that was interesting. And then the man said, "I just finished the Autobiography of a Yogi, and I want Kriya." And Narayan said to him, "I can talk to you about that, but would you help me?" And helped him carry in the boxes. To me, that's evidence of God, isn't it? For sure. Definitely. There's a beautiful prayer that is suggested in the book Promise of Immortality. Actually, that book is really interesting. If you would like to have a deeper investigation of the first 26 Sundays that we do the service, Swamiji wrote a deeper book that took the topic, and the one, Can Man See God, is in there because it's only number 9. And it goes to 26, and I'm always sad when 26 comes because we don't have that reference because he never got to volume 2. So it's a very rich experience of the first half of the year that we do on Sunday mornings. So this is a prayer to the Guru from that book, which I'd like to read to you. Make me aware of your consciousness within and around me. I offer myself up to you for transformation. For you alone see my divine potential. May my thoughts become yours, divine inspirations, my consciousness, your infinite bliss, introduce me to God. So I thought that was interesting, and of course, my mind goes to visuals. So I had made the little saying, talk to God about everything. I'll make some more of those and bring them to the front desk sometimes so you can all have them. But I'm thinking, introduce me to God. That's another little card that I'll try to make visual. But that's the consciousness that we need to be into to get us ready to make this wonderful, wonderful journey that we're on. So it's all about vibration. And Swami suggests that every day we focus on the vastness of God. So here we have really two solid ways of making that contact. One is to talk to God as your absolute very best friend, because God is that for you, for each of us. And the other is to meditate on the vastness of God, because as our journey progresses, this is what happens in our consciousness. We become more and more aware of the higher vibrations that are creating everything. So we're way out in the energy fields of the galaxies. We're right there with Einstein understanding about light. You know, it's scientific, but yes, it's spiritual. It is the whole picture. And so Swami says to visualize. So let's do this together. Just close your eyes and I'll take you through this. Visualize that presence as a light shining with purity. Mentally expand that light until it fills your body and expands beyond it, surrounding you with a golden aura. That aura, not your physical form, is your true body. So this is a practice we can do not only just in meditation, but it's a practice we can do throughout the day, because we so identify with our body. It's just trying so hard to get our attention and trying to convince us that this is who we are. And every once in a while, we'll have an experience where we know, wait a minute, there's something else going on here. In fact, I had an experience this week. I was speaking with someone, and all of a sudden, the experience of contentment is so interesting that it showed up, just washed over me. I had never had that experience before in just that manner, but it just washed over me, and I go, oh, I'm not just sitting in this chair. I'm part of that consciousness. This is where I'm going. This is how large I can be. I can sit here and be totally content, and my body's telling me lots of other things. So we must love God. We must love meditation. We must love Him to see Him. And we must love others in order to love God. That's the circle. That's why we're here. We can't just hide ourselves away and ask God for all the extraordinary out-of-body experiences. We need to integrate it into the world. This is what the world is offering us now, that we meditate, that we serve one another, that we love constantly within the world that God has made. And we can see our pathway is very clear these days. There is something that Swamiji put together in the early years called The 8 Aspects of God. And I remember when I first came across those, it was so very helpful to understand how to make the bridge between the sense of God as someone that I prayed to, someone that I served. But also, I knew that God didn't have a body, that God was vibration, that God was loving, personal vibration. Imagine, that's quite extraordinary. So Swami gave these 8 aspects, which made it very helpful to understand how we can experience and relate to that aspect of God's omnipresence. And they are peace, calmness, love, joy, light, sound, power, and wisdom. These are wonderful to contemplate, and you can take one and focus on it for weeks and months if you want to. You can take the 8 and take them through a week plus 1. You can do many different things. What I've chosen to give you a feeling for what he has given us here, what Swami has given us, is to read the one on calmness. Think of yourself as sitting in the midst of space with stars millions of miles away from you in all directions. Feel that you have no body and that you are sitting on nothing. You're just a point in space. Expand that point in space to include the sun, the stars, the galaxies. Feel that you're sitting in the vastness of space beyond time. This is the truth out of which you have come, the truth in which God lives, and the truth to which he calls you back. Another visualization here on calmness. Think of the sunrise on eternity, not the sunrise on the planet full of insects, birds, waving trees, and all the things that keep this world such a busy place. None of those things, just eternity. Think of the sun rising into this eternity and its rays spreading outward and upward with power, joy, and calmness, until you realize that this is not the physical sun, but the sight of the Son of God, which gives life to everything. It's so lovely that Steve and the choir sang that song on eternity. And finally, I want to recall to your mind one of the favorite chants of Dr. Lewis, who was one of Master's first disciples back east, and he loved this song. I wish I could sing it, but I'm not brave enough. Sitting in the silence on the sunny banks of my mind. I want to stop there. That is the most lovely phrase. That would be so helpful if we could remember that each day. We don't always feel that the banks of our mind are sunny, but let's suggest that they become sunny. Sitting in the silence on the sunny banks of my mind, sitting in the silence, Yogananda by my side. When the thoughts have gone to rest, that's the time I see him best. Oh, 'tis lovely, sitting in the silence. Thank you.